Welcome back to We Talk Boxing. And as mentioned in my last video, I'll be keeping you guys informed in regards to the latest breaking news in regards to Conor Benn and obviously his situation with him testing positive for a known substance as well. Now, obviously, this situation is going to be a long, drawn out conclusion. It's not going to be, concluded overnight, and it's going to take, potentially some months. But obviously, I will try and keep you guys updated in regards to the latest news as well as my thoughts about the whole situation, etc. Now, before I continue, as always, guys, please like and subscribe for more boxing related content to help grow this channel even further. So the latest news, in regards to this whole Conor Benn, testing positive for drugs, situation, is that, earlier this year, Ben pretty much tested positive again, for the same substance, but this was, just before the Van Heerden fight. But somehow, this Van Heerden fight still happened despite, the positive results. Now, for me, the difference in this situation and that situation, was that in this situation, a whistleblower came forward, and made these findings public for everyone to know and to hear. Whereas, in the Van Heerden situation just before and around the early start of the year, no whistleblower came public, which means that, everything was kind of kept hush hush, between the camps and certain promoters, etc. But obviously that wasn't, the case on this one because obviously just before, obviously a couple of days and so it was made publicly aware. Now, for me, if this, latest rumor turns out to be true, then, and they could potentially find evidence, to provide for the British Board of Control, then Conor is definitely getting banned, but I can see him getting banned for like the maximum amount of time because obviously with the first positive test, as well as if they do have evidence for that, plus with these recent findings as well, this would mean that he would be a second time offender. Meaning, to the board that for one, he hasn't learnt from the first situation, and two, he's a repeat offender, which means that he's more likely to do it again. So, the ban is going to be a lot sterner. They're just gonna, take him to town really, and just, give him the maximum punishment. And so I've been hearing that could be up to 4 years, which is crazy because he's 26, and by the time he'd be allowed to return into the ring, into the British ring, he'd be 30 or 31, depending on obviously when he turns 27. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of crazy to be fair, but you know what I mean. I don't know really what much more to say, like you know what I mean. But what for me, the thing that I don't like about this whole situation, is that we're only now hearing about it. You know what I mean? The first positive test. Do you know what I mean? And this is because with the new recently allegated, you know what I mean, and plus the new results which was made aware last week in regards to the positive test. It's kind of like, because it's out there, they're going to put more, more pressure on the table and tell everyone about the first test, etc. They probably feel a bit of confidence, coming out and saying, that he tested positive earlier in the year. Because if nothing came to light, then no one would be hearing about anything at all about Conor Benn, and we would still be thinking that he's a clean fighter, which is crazy. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, he's technically, technically not a drugs cheater at the minute, but he has to kind of prove him, prove us wrong, really. Do you know what I mean? And there's only a couple of ways how he could pretty much do that. You know what I mean? One, he has to have some sort of evidence. Do you know what I mean? To kind of to come out and to show the British Board of Control, and obviously they could clear him. And two, it is the the second sample, the B sample. That could come back and potentially be a negative. Finding as well. So for me, there's a couple of ways, but it's going to be a tricky one because, as I said, most of the interviews that I've kind of watched and stuff like that in regards to PEDs, etc. in boxing, you know what I mean, always state that 95 to 99% of the time, the second sample always comes back positive. So, you know what I mean, even regards to, you know what I mean, the positive test results that, you know what I mean, was made publicly aware recently, you know what I mean, Connor still protests that he's innocent. Do you know what I mean? And he recently quoted, you know what I mean? He tweeted, sorry, you know what I mean? And I'm going to quote his tweet right now is that I hope, you know what I mean, the apology is as loud as the disrespect. You know what I mean? For me, stating that he believes that he's innocent. Do you know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? From my point of view, this is a good thing because, you know what I mean? Like, if he believes that he's innocent, do you know what I mean? And I hope he's innocent, then potentially, do you know what I mean? Like, this could just be some mad big misunderstanding. Do you know what I mean? And maybe you know what I mean, there is evidence to prove that you know what I mean, he's not a cheat, or maybe the B sample. Do you know what I mean? It has been tested, or it will be tested, and it may come back that it's negative. And I hope it's just some mad big misunderstanding. But because for me, you know what I mean, I like watching Ben, and I think he's got not well, depending on obviously the results, but if it does come back negative, he's got a big. I still feel that you know what I mean. He's got a big career in boxing, but you know what I mean. It has to be. He has to prove his innocence. Do you know what I mean? And the only way to do that is for this B sample, in my eyes, really, to kind of come back negative, really. Otherwise, you know what I mean. Like he's going to be banned for a while, and it's going to affect his career because he's going to have to restart again. You know what I mean? He's going to be an older fighter fighting against some young pups. Do you know what I mean? Some young hungry fighters who are going to be out for blood. Do you know what I mean? In the future, and he might not come back the same. Who knows? Because he would have been out of the ring for some time. You know what I mean? Also as well. You know what I mean? I know I'm going slightly off topic here, but over the past couple of days and stuff, you know what I mean, we've been seeing recent interviews, you know what I mean, with Chris Eubank Sr. Do you know what I mean? Him coming out and, you know what I mean, doing interviews regarding the whole situation and mainly his son, really. Do you know what I mean? Pretty much Senior, you know what I mean, doesn't think, you know what I mean, in one interview that I watched that Conor Benn knowingly took the drugs. Do you know what I mean? He believes that you know what I mean, Ben is innocent because he doesn't believe that he actually knowingly took it. You know what I mean? For me, suggesting that someone potentially has either given him the drugs or potentially it got mixed up or contaminated in his food or his supplements or something. Do you know what I mean? And if this is true, then it's a shame because you know what I mean. Ben technically is still liable for what goes into his body, regardless of how it got there. Do you know what I mean? Whether or not you know what I mean, he was giving it in the shake or he was accidentally mixed into his food, he predominantly is responsible because it's his body. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a mad situation because for me, I'm thinking, okay, how do you actually take this drug? You know what I mean? It's a fertility drug. How is it administered? You know what I mean? Have you got to take it through the mouth? Do you know what I mean? You got to swallow it? Is it administered through a needle, syringe? You know what I mean? Or did you know what I mean? Or potentially, as I said, you know what I mean? Was it grounded up and mixed in with his food or his drink? So that's an interesting question. I personally just hope that you know what I mean. Us public, you know what I mean. We hear, you know what I mean. We do hear to find out, you know what I mean, the truth and I certainly hope over the next couple of months that you know what I mean the truth does come to light because a lot of the times in situations like this we never really hear the truth, which is a shame. Now, lastly, you know what I mean. Before I keep waffling on, you know, you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing my voice. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Senior, you know what I mean, did another interview. This time it was with Talk Sport, and I found this interview, you know what I mean, very, very interesting. Do you know what I mean? Because in this one, he pretty much claimed that people tried to kill his son. Do you know what I mean? By asking his son, do you know what I mean, to weigh a lot lighter than what he's normally fights. But also, do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Them having real strict hydration clauses as well. which would have meant that, you know what I mean, Junior would have potentially have been drained regardless of him, you know what I mean, weighing in, making weight, and still rehydrating, because he would have just been drained totally. Now, for me, you know what I mean, Senior, you know what I mean, is kind of on the wrong here, because Junior signed up for the fight. Junior knew what the clause was in the weight was, etc., etc. So, you know what I mean, he's his own man. He accepted, you know what I mean, the terms and conditions, and, do you know what I mean, he agreed to everything. Now, what I don't agree with, you know what I mean, on the other hand, is that you got people like Eddie Hearn, you know what I mean, Eddie Hearn, and, you know what I mean, um, Sutherland or whatever his name is, Cali Sutherland, whatever. Obviously they knew about the findings, and they still continue to try and put the fight on. You know what I mean? Even after it was made publicly aware, because this is dangerous. Because at the end of the day, you know what I mean, Junior would have been weight drained. Do you know what I mean? And he had a rehydration clause. You know what I mean? He couldn't come in any more than, I think it's 160. So he realistically only putting on £3. But also Ben, you know what I mean? Ben would have, you know what I mean, been pumped up on the goods. You know what I mean? With the juice. And if he would have went in there and seriously hurt Junior, then, you know what I mean, this whole story would have just went mad. It would have just been crazy. Do you know what I mean? So that's the one thing that, you know what I mean, I think's wrong in the whole situation, that the promoters still continue to try and put the show on, whereas realistically they should have, you know what I mean, just cancelled it, because, you know what I mean, I get the whole weight draining thing, but you can't have a guy who's pumped upon juices fighting against the guy who's been drained. Do you know what I mean? It's just wrong in my eyes. But anyway, as I said, I don't want to keep you guys too long. Let me know your thoughts about this whole situation. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Do you feel that Senior's right? Do you know what I mean? In that they did try and kill his son. Do you know what I mean? And do you guys believe that, you know what I mean, Conor Benn is innocent? Do you think he's innocent? Or do you think he is guilty? Let me know in the comments below. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment for more boxing related content. Bless.